Welcome to the Public Service Committee meeting of Tuesday, January the 14th, 2024. The time is 5:32 p.m. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our December the 16th meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 16th.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. The minutes of our December the 16th meeting have been approved. Any public participation? Next. Seeing none, we'll move on to water, the water project updates.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Glenn Davis, acting city engineer. The water project is really some new projects that are coming online. Some of you may have heard was talking about the fact that we have a bulk water fill station. We have a couple water line projects. And we've posted those in a common request for qualifications package that's common with 10 different projects that are various projects. And the reason for that is we have a tight schedule. We wanted to try to get everything built this calendar year. And so we're trying to get that get going as quickly as possible. So that was a mechanism to do that. So we actually right now have an advertisement that I've gotten a lot of contact about already from consultants who will try to be the engineering consultants for these various projects. Their proposals are due end of January. We're hoping to get them under contract beginning February to start design. So that's the case with all those newly budgeted projects that I just mentioned. There's also some project for EPA lead services. That does not require a design process. That's really just going out and sending out a bid package. So that's going to be here scheduled to be done a little bit later, probably closer to April. We'll maybe send out that bid package roughly. And then we're also working on one of the projects on the list here is some improvements to our water treatment plant to be able to increase capacity. And so we're in a phase of doing an analysis to come up with a strategy for how to, after several steps, being approved by EPA to have more capacity. But it's a multi-step process, so we're in the middle of that right now for that. So that's in a design process as we speak. And then that's for the upcoming project for this we're design starting. When it comes to the rest of them on the list are the ones that are going to be coming to construction soon. So I can move forward to those if you like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the water looping project, that is all three projects here are the design is essentially complete, and we have a list of all the bids we want to go out for construction this season, and we stagger those on a schedule to make sure that we get good timing, and it's better to have them one at a time and get better bids if you can get opportunities for the multiple openings staggered. So in that context, water looping is the scheduled to be going to bid in April. That opening is also April. Same with the Bird Street PRV, roughly April, and then Tolbert. We're trying to get Tolbert done sooner than March. So all of them in the spring, and they'll be staggered generally 1 or 2 weeks at a time as we go through. And there's quite a bit going to bid, so that's just part of the normal schedule. So a couple details to work out, but that's a pretty good summary.
And then with those three projects you discussed, there is legislation requests there for those. Did you want to weigh in on any of those, Mr. Testa?
Matt, maybe I'll defer to you as to whether or not it's okay for these to go 3 readings or...
I would ask council's consideration, or the committee's consideration to move it to council agenda, but I believe, Glenn, I'll weigh in, that all of these, since the design is done, they can probably go at least 2 readings. I would recommend. If we skip that third, it would just give us an opportunity to move the package forward quicker, if you will. That's all. But committee's preference.
Right?
What's that?
The bids have not came back for any of the 3 projects.
We haven't even advertised them.
That's what I mean. So, if they needed to go 3 readings, they could, because you're not going to get the bids back till April.
Yeah,
Well, the legislation is authorizing us to advertise for bids.
It's for the bids.
Yeah, there's no harm in getting the legislation done sooner. It actually only helps to get it done sooner.
Just knowing the desire of 3 readings in a normal situation, the only caveat to that is, I would say, if we did 2 readings, it gives adequate notice of the authorization and gives us that extra half a month to get things formulated and bid out quicker so we can realize the openings. That's all.
Well, if there's no questions, we'll do these one at a time. Need a motion for the first item there for the looping project.
I'll make that motion for the looping project on authorize the directing interim director of public service to advertise and receive bids to enter into contract for the water system looping project and declare an emergency.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, we will move that on. The next one is the Bird Street pressure reducing valve.
I'll make that motion to add to the council's calendar an ordinance authorizing and directing the interim director of public service to advertise for, receive bids, and enter into contract for the Bird Street pressure reducing valve and declare an emergency.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The legislation for the pressure reducing valve on Bird Street has been moved to council. And the third item there, the Tolbert Street improvement project.
I'll make a motion that we advance the authorizing director of interim director of public service to advertise for and receive bids to enter into contract for the Tolbert Street improvement project and declaring emergency.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. The Tolbert Street improvement project has been moved on. Thank you. And again, with a recommendation of
Two
two
readings.
readings on those. All right.
Thank you.
Next item is under wastewater. Any wastewater project updates?
Sure. So one of the wastewater projects that's on the calendar is an SSO removal, SSO being sanitary sewer overflow reduction project. That project is one of the 10 that's on this RFQ that we've sent out. So I've gotten some comments, some questions about that already. So we've already got some activity on that potential project for consultants to consider. That's actually the largest of those 10 when it comes to the construction costs. So that we'll see how that continues.
The whole plan, those 10 items that we sent forth, did we get something back from Ohio EPA yet? Because we sent it out in quite a while ago.
I think we're talking
The
overall
SSO
plan.
Yeah, the overall plan.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen anything. I have not.
Because we
I-
talked about it and so forth, and you said you would share it when it came in, and I just wanted to remind you of that, if
Okay.
you'll share that with us, if and when it does come in from the Ohio EPA.
Okay, I think Christie's the leader.
Yeah, it was part of the
Yes.
wastewater treatment plan,
Permit.
NPDES
Yeah.
permit, so we'll have to talk about that. I know they gave us provisional permitting so that the plant could still operate, but we were including that SSO remediation plan
Yes.
in it and adopting it into our license. That aspect I have not seen. We will double check, I will make sure that I double check with Superintendent Babcock on that item and report to the committee. And it won't have to wait until our next committee meeting if I have any information for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
So kind of in that realm, one of the items in the budget this year is an upgrade to our wastewater treatment plant master plan. So that is a project that is not part of that bulk RFQ we put out. It's going to be done separately. And we expect that to be an RFQ that goes out in probably February or March to find a consultant who would be able to potentially take on the entire sewer system. We'll see how much we can get for the budget, but to do a sizable wastewater system analysis, hopefully citywide. So that's coming as well in the budget. And then there's another small project for doing some manhole sealing that's to reduce some of the inflow and infiltration into the I&I into our manholes. So that's a project that's going to be going to bid here probably in May or so. So that's just one more of the projects we're doing this year. And then the last thing to mention is that Superintendent Babcock has been working with a consultant. Apparently there's a lid that they're needing to replace, and so that's something that's going to be coming forth for construction here this season as well. I don't have a date on that yet. So I think that's all I have for wastewater. We are wrapping up a couple projects from this last year. One of them is a project that's going on right now for SSO4. It's called. There's a weir being placed in the backyards up by one of what's our pump station. And then most of that's almost done, so that's supposed to be done here this next month. And then we also have a lining rehabilitation project that's related to the same thing. So that's scheduled to be completed here in about March.
Okay. Any further questions? All right. We'll move on to the stormwater. I know there was a meeting just prior to this one. Mike, you can give us a quick update on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Stormwater Commission met for the third time earlier tonight, right before this meeting, and we discussed a couple of different items. One of the items that's pertinent to the Public Service Committee as well is now that we're into January, we will begin revisiting the capital improvement budget. So we put together the 15-year capital budget last year. It went through some revisions as we moved from the tax budget to the appropriations budget. And then, of course, we discussed the upcoming projects with City Council. It's really designed to be kind of a live document now. So we will revisit the items that are on there, what year they're assigned to, update cost estimates where necessary, with the intent of putting that information into our tax budget, and then, of course, massaging it even further as we move to the appropriation budget. As part of that, we will build out a stormwater capital improvement program. So that's an area where we have not had a lot of information. There's not been a lot of projects identified, but that will be a focal point as we're going through the capital budget to basically build out that piece of it with the intent of taking our operating costs, the capital project costs, also kind of updating our impervious land area maps, and then having a discussion at the Stormwater Commission on whether or not our current rate is covering our costs and projected costs with the capital projects, or if we need to revisit those rates. So to summarize, tonight we talked about our plans for updating the capital budget, talked about some ideas that we have for revamping the basement, the dry basement program, and part of that would be maybe looking at some things that we can simplify or do differently that might make it easier for folks to apply for assistance through that program. And also some potential tools that may exist for upgrading the impervious area maps. A lot of that will fall to Glenn and I over the next few months. The expectation is we will revisit the Stormwater Capital Plan at our July Stormwater Commission meeting, although we hope to have some of the recommendations on the dry basement program ready for discussion by commission members at our April meeting. Also in the works will be a review of our bylaws. So we've passed out the bylaws when the committee or the commission first began meeting last summer. Repass those out tonight with an ask to commission members that if to review those bylaws, and if there are aspects of the bylaws that they feel need to be modified or sections that deleted or something added, to send those to me, and then at our meeting in April, we will begin discussing, potential changes, if any, to those bylaws. Ultimately, our plan would be put together the capital project list, update our impervious area maps, update the dry basement program, update the bylaws, and then really once we've got all of that information, bake it in there, analyze our rates to see if a rate adjustment needs to be made, and then once we've done all of that, to really make a focused effort on outreach and marketing, for example, the dry basement program. and it may kind of be in a little bit of a different format, but to make people aware of it, I think because the commission had not met in a little while, it just maybe kind of fell to the back burner. People probably forgot about it because there wasn't anybody on our side continuing to kind of make them aware of it. So I anticipate that by the time we get to our October meeting, we will have completed a lot of this. So tonight was kind of the kicking off point for some of these activities.
Okay. Any further questions? All right, I know we're off here. Next item up is the EV charging station. Updates on that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So over the last few months, we've looked at some different aspects and explored some different options that may be available with regard to warranties for the EV charging station. And just to refresh everybody, there's a basic warranty that's provided for 2 years that NOAC is paying for. We have an option to extend that basic warranty for years 3, 4, and 5 at a cost to us, or there's what they call a performance warranty, which basically covers everything in the basic warranty for all 5 years. Plus, it also covers if there are damages, somebody hits the EV charging station or there's vandalism. At our last meeting, we reviewed some cost tables in financial analysis that I put together based on some assumptions about the usage that each of those ports were likely to experience over the course of a year. If you remember, the basic rate to cover our costs under different scenarios was anywhere from about 22 cents per kilowatt hour to about 35 cents per kilowatt hour. The 22 cents being if we did not purchase or invest in any additional warranty, it'd be 27 cents per kilowatt hour if we chose to extend the basic warranty, or 35 cents per kilowatt hour if we purchased the performance warranty. After we've gone through this and kind of considering our prior discussions and discussions on our side, we have decided not to purchase any additional warranty to, now that we have the basic warranty for 2 years. And at this point, the consideration that I would ask for council is do we want to basically maintain the dollar rate and revisit this in a few months? Do we want to possibly adjust that rate for a trial period based on our cost analysis? Really, there's a couple steps left in terms of the paperwork that I've held off on, but we're at a point where the plan would be whatever rate council decides, we would complete that paperwork, wrap that up, and look to commission or basically turn on the station within the next couple of weeks.
I'm of the opinion, honestly, that we should hold the $1 rate and review it in June, see what type of usage we get over the next 6 months, and if we need to adjust it at that point, make the adjustment. I mean, that's what we originally talked about, because you don't know how much usage it's going to get.
That's correct. Yeah, those rates are based on an estimate of each port. If you remember, there are 2 standard ports and a fast charging port.
Yeah, and I agree too that we don't want any other dollar. I would just think that support itself. We're not going to subsidize it.
We're not going to subsidize it in any way. So
No.
let's review it in 6 months.
Okay.
With the, do you think there's any? And I'm fine with $1. I mean, do you think there'd be any more use if we dropped it a little bit? I mean, at 35 cents, we're not doing the warranty, so we wouldn't have to do that. But if we even went up a little bit on the 35 cents for a while, that would cover some of, if we had maintenance, we're going to have maintenance on our own
Yes,
after the
that's-
2 years. We're going to have that. So we're going to have to build up a little bit of money there. Will I don't know. Will $1 scare people away, or would we end up selling more by dropping it a little bit? I don't know.
I actually think they're a captive audience right now. I mean, because where else can you go in Wadsworth? Okay? And I'm still of of the opinion, like I have been from the very beginning, we should not, our residents should not subsidize.
Oh, I agree.
These EV cars.
I agree.
They made the choice. If it cost them $1 per kilowatt hour, it costs them $1 per kilowatt hour. You're not subsidizing my gas to drive my car.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
To the warranty, what are we responsible for in years 3, 4, and 5 if something happened to it?
Yeah, so we would be responsible if there was basically an equipment malfunction,
Okay.
or there was some problem with the operations of the machine that was not caused by, somebody hitting it or vandalism.
Other than insurance might cover if somebody hit it with
Yes,
a vehicle.
our
Yes, yes.
regular city insurance would cover that.
I'm a little bit concerned that we're taking on that burden of cost. And,
But if something happens, we can just turn it off. It's done.
well,
It's over.
that was the following question. Aren't we responsible for having it on for 5 years? Isn't that
Well,
part of the agreement?
we're responsible for commissioning it and turning it on. I think there's an expectation that it would be on for 5 years. And originally we talked about this as having a 10-year useful life. The more I've interacted with NOACA and we've discussed different options on the warranties, I think it's generally perceived that probably 5 years is reasonable, given the fact that, the technology changes, and the anticipation is 5 years from now, different technology will be in place. So, yes, we would have some cost there if there were problems. Now, because basically, under the terms of the grant, we're supposed to recover our costs and not make a profit on it. I think if, we charge a rate, if we choose to stick with the dollar rate, we could make a case that would generate some surplus that could be used to cover either malfunctions or problems if they occur, or would be closer to the truer cost if the usage is less than anticipated. I think the disadvantage with the dollar rate is, based on the market research that I've done, I think that would be perceived as high, and I think it could cause the station to be used less than it otherwise would. Based on the probably 40 different stations that I looked at, and many stations don't charge anything, so the 40 that I'm talking about had some type of fee or charge associated with the operation of their station. Rates typically ranged from about 20 cents per kilowatt hour to roughly 59 cents per kilowatt hour. And I'm just referencing the rate analysis that I passed out at our last meeting. So that would be the only reservation potentially about the dollar rate, is that it may cause we may get a lot less usage because we've, had a rate that's perceived as being artificially higher than, what it would be in the marketplace.
During the warranty period, if something does go wrong, is there any, is it covered 100%? Or is it an 80-20 or 90-10, or it's 100%?
Yeah, it's 100%. And it would be under the performance warranty. Now, 100% of what's covered, so under the warranty that we would have, it'd basically be if the equipment malfunctioned or there was a problem with it. If during those first 2 years, somebody backed their car into it and somehow damaged it, we would file a claim with our insurance company to have that fixed.
Okay. But the maintenance is 100%?
Yes.
Mr. Stugmeyer, Mr. Copley, Mr. Parrish, would you consider, if we maintained and if we commissioned the units, got them started up in the coming weeks, and kept the dollar rate that you had settled on initially, would you consider maybe revisiting and analyzing the numbers maybe 3 months into it rather than 6 months into it? Because I think there's some good dialogue there, and none of our crystal balls are perfect.
Right.
But 3 months might give us a better chance to adopt or adjust or pivot if we need to at all, or stay the course for another 3 months and take another look at it. Because we're not sure about usage, we're not sure if our rate is going to turn folks away or affect those things. it just gives us a little bit briefer period of analysis to take a look at the numbers. Would you be opposed to maybe revisiting in 3 months rather than 6 months?
Either one is fine
I
with
think
me.
3 would be fine. And I
Three's what we were originally talking
Yeah.
about with
Yeah.
the dollar.
Yeah.
And I think initially what we would look at was, the first month would probably be low anyway because a lot of people would know about it. We would need to look at the growth. If it starts to grow, the usage grows in that third month, we might want to concentrate on that curve to see what that looks like, not just, other numbers.
Yeah,
So-
and we would, communicate the fact that the station's open. I'm sure
yeah.
we'd share that on social media, but it makes sense that, as time passes, more and more people will become aware of the station, and, ideally, we would see, an upward trend in usage of that. So based on our conversation tonight, my plan would be wrap up the final paperwork, and we're pretty close to that. There's a couple tax things we need to do to make the auditor's office satisfied with how the payments will be processed. But really, I anticipate that stuff can probably be done over the course of the next week, so probably within 2 weeks at the latest, we would have the the station commissioned. We would start it out at $1 per kilowatt hour for each of the ports, so it'd be the same for the two standard or level 2 ports as it would for the fast charging port. Now, typically, you'll see people charge more for the fast charging port, but to kind of understand, somebody using the fast charging port is going to be able to pull a lot more kilowatt hours for a time period. So we would make, that 30 minutes is going to yield us a lot more money, so to speak, on the fast charger than it would the standard. And then from the date that it's turned on, I will, come back to council and share the performance of our station and seek guidance for what, if any, rate adjustments appear to be necessary.
Okay. And then those, when we change the price of that, I know we can do it as frequently or infrequently as we want.
We can.
Is that something that we do ourselves, or
Yeah.
do we have to we have control over, if we want to go out and change it, we can do that internally, we don't have to call
That's correct.
Flow to do that?
That's correct.
Okay, and that's even after the warranty period, that's always under
Yeah,
our
that's
control. Okay.
more, software piece of that.
Okay,
Contract clarification, because there's been some misunderstandings with this contract. I want to make sure. So if we do turn it on, we're not committed to 5 years. We can turn it back off if we have an issue at any time without a penalty to us. Is that, I want to make sure that that's a clarity thing, because that's what we've been talking about.
Yeah, I would have to, what I get from NOAC, and honestly, Mr. Parrish, I didn't ask them that question. I basically said, hey, are we required to turn this thing on? And they said, yeah, you are. Now, whether or not we would be required to operate it for 5 years, I don't know that. But I would suggest that, whether we are or aren't, it probably is time to turn that on with the understanding that based on the usage and the costs involved, we have the right and the ability to adjust rates to cover any costs that we would incur in the usage of that station.
And again, clarity of the contract. Did we sign a contract that says we have to turn it on once we accepted that money? Is that, because there's been a lot of blue-gray area. And I want to make sure that, if they say that you have to turn it on and it's not in writing and so forth, I want to make sure that we get everything, because we haven't in the past. It's been this and that. And I want to make sure we're covered.
Yeah, that's a communication point that I had with NOAC. I would have to revisit the contract to see.
Okay.
I'd gone through it, but looking for different
Yes.
issues.
So I'd appreciate that. And before council votes on turning it on or off, and I assume council needs to vote this next week.
They do not.
They do not.
So council sets the rate on that. The administration could
Decide.
choose to turn that on. But I will make a point
By
of,
Tuesday of next week when we have our meeting, would we know?
We
Our
can
council meeting?
definitely review the contract,
Yeah,
and if
review that,
those
make
terms
sure
are
those two
contained
things-
within the contract,
Yeah.
we can certainly let you know.
I'd appreciate that,
Yep,
because, like I said, there's been some misunderstandings in that contract.
Yeah, and let me say this as well. Based on the research we did in the meeting that we had with NOACA, I would say our understanding or misunderstanding of the agreement was the same for all communities. So this, the short answer is it sounds like maybe NOACA didn't do a very good job of communicating, or the plan changed a little bit before it was finalized and they didn't communicate that. But I would say our understanding appears to be the same as most of the people that also other communities.
Because of this, I don't want to make any assumptions. I hope everybody agrees.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, I'm for what we just stated, absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
And I'll take a look at the contract.
Any further comments? All right, very good, thank you, everybody. We'll move on to CityLink. I know you'll give us the fiber project update there first.
Yep, so the fiber project continues to move forward. During the colder months like this, when you really can't dig underground, there's still plenty of work that will continue. So the aerial work where they're running fiber, the fiber drop, so this is basically connecting from the wires to the outside of people's houses, and then the actual installations inside houses, all of that work can continue. It's just really kind of the boring and the digging underground that needs to slow down until we get into warmer months. In terms of the recent work that was completed, we completed the splicing in Weatherstone. We're continuing the splicing in Good, Valley, Browse, High Street, College, Beck, Pardee, and Boyer areas. And when I say splicing, you'll see a trailer parked in an area, and there's literally one or two guys in there, and they've got a cable that has 144 really tiny hair-like fibers in it, and they're literally connecting them with a machine to other fibers. That's tends to be the most time-consuming portion of it. But moving forward with that, aerial placement where we're overlashing existing aerial lines, completed in Weatherstone, completed along College, Treese, Westview, Westgate, Parkview, Linden, and Hillsdale Streets, completed in the Hartman, Broad, and Overlook School area, completed along Wilson, Hartman, and Silver Creek in terms of the backbone and the laterals. So if you think of the backbone, almost like a circle around the city, and the laterals are coming off of that. The work that's planned for the next couple of weeks, crews will be focusing on Nottingham, State, and Fixler on the laterals for those streets, and then Edenmore Ridge and Sharon Center for the laterals. In terms of the homes that are ready for installation, approximately 1,800 homes are ready for service, and I want to clarify this a little bit. When we say ready for service, meaning all of the port works are done, all of the splicing is done. So you kind of think of the 1,800 would be ready from the outside plant or the contractor side, and then that would be, our ability to go in and do installations would be a subset of that. We've completed all of the drop work for 100 homes in the Euclid area, 119 homes in Weatherstone, and then we've got another 150 homes in other areas that we're working on scheduling some installation work. Actual completions to date, fully completed, are about 425 homes. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll schedule installations in Weatherstone and Euclid, and then ultimately move on to Franks. So one of the issues that we're having, and what has slowed us down a little bit, is that once we get to the point where we've done the outside work, we've got the drop done, and those are all things that can happen without needing an appointment with the customer. Ultimately, we're calling and reaching out to customers, but they need to call us back, and we need to coordinate a time to actually come out and do the work on the inside of the house. So one of the things that we've been working on over the last few weeks is instead of just having CityLink staff do that, we're doing weekly training with our customer service representatives over in the CityLink office here and the utility billing office to help us make those outbound calls. it really is kind of a situation where the more calls we make, if you're going to get, say, I'm just making it up, and a third of the people call you back within 2 days, if you reach out to 1,000 people instead of 500, you're going to get more to install. So, we've got a plan moving forward. I think we've been proactive in terms of training some of our folks on this to do the outreach calls. And really, I mean, the project's going well, and, we'll continue to push to ramp it up. The underground stuff, won't see a lot of that while it's cold outside because you can't dig into the ground, but there will be plenty of work for the contractor, our project manager, and then our installation folks and technicians to continue working. So overall, the project seems to be going pretty well.
Very good. Next item under CityLink, there's some legislation there for some bandwidth contracts and also a WCTV for the television.
So the first item, and there's actually two pieces of legislation. It's really kind of the same legislation, but for two different companies. So thinking of the bandwidth as basically like the big circuits that are delivering the signal to Wadsworth. Currently, we have basically two 40 gigabyte circuits. The reason that we have two is if something were to happen with one and it went down, we would have a backup circuit. To kind of put this in some perspective, one of our busier times, heaviest loads on the system was during the recent Ohio State football game. And out of the 40 gigabyte circuit that it's on, we used about 28 gigabytes of that at its highest usage level. So we've still got a lot of room there, but we've got 80 gigabytes to work with. The reason for two different contracts is they're coming from two different providers, so we have redundancy. These two items, legislation request number 1 and number 2, are basically the annual cost, although we'll pay it on a monthly basis, the annual basically rental cost for those circuits. This is the first year that both of these items exceeded the council threshold, and if you remember, at one time it was 50,000, then we went to 75,000 last year, and then this year it's 77,250 because the state ordinance said, and you increase it by 3% every year. So both of these are over that dollar amount, which is why you're seeing them for the first time. I'll also mention item number 3, the video programming content. So the $2.8 million, and this is down from about $3 million in years past, $3.3 million. This is the cost that we pay for the content that makes up all of the channels on our cable networks and our streaming packages. Most of it goes to the National Cable Television Cooperative. It's a nonprofit that basically provides buying power for independent cable operators around the country. We've had this expense in the past. I don't know that it's always been brought, forth for council consideration, but erring on the side of, bringing more to council to make sure you guys get a chance to see that, I've included it on here. I mention all of these together because both of the bandwidth pieces of legislation and the video programming content are continuations of existing contracts that we've had for some time. There's not much we can do about getting a better price on the content because that's kind of the whole purpose of the National Cable Television nonprofit. In terms of the circuits, we beat the bushes like crazy looking for people that could provide us the circuits at all with any reliability. And because a lot of our other operations dovetail with these circuits, it would not be practical to change those providers. But again, this is the first year that those costs would exceed those thresholds. And part of the reason for that is because when we were new with these providers, they had incentives and gave us discounts, and you get a free month here and stuff. So we weren't abutting, up against the limits with the annual cost. Now that we're over that, I want to I would like council for all of these, the ask would be to consider moving these to the agenda, and because these are our annual operating items, consider suspending it and calling, so there's not an interruption in any of these items.
So the National Cable, the television cooperative is more like they're going out.
It's a
almost
purchasing
like public
co-op.
power, where they're going out and searching for the best price, correct?
It's a
Is that-
purchasing co-op, yep.
Okay.
And let me clarify, not all of the money goes to them, because depending on the deal that different channels have with NCTC, may have to pay the channel directly. So for example, ESPN, because it's so popular, it can kind of
Call its own shots.
Yeah, they've got some weight to pull around. So sometimes, we'll pay channels like that because that's the relationship. We're still getting the best price through NTCT. It's just we're not paying NTCT directly. But for most of the channels, especially those without a lot of, as much bargaining power, payments go to NCTC.
Okay.
Typically, the content agreements with the individual channels between NCTC and those channels are 3-year agreements. But when you kind of look at everybody that's in the pool, so to speak, you might have, a third of them renew in year 1, a third in year 2, a third in year 3. So that's why you see variations or slight increases in prices because you've got usually some channels that are raising their price in each year of the agreement, but not all of them. So depending on when when a particular channel raises their rates, what those rates are, what the increase in those rates will be, that will have an impact on future pricing decisions on packages to make sure that we're, covering our costs, but not anticipating any changes that would impact the prices that we presented to council as our proposed prices for the packages for, the first year or two.
All right. Any questions? We'll go through these one at a time then. The first item on there is a legislation request for the Conjunct Communications LLC.
I'll make that motion. An ordinance authorizing the interim director of public service to enter into a contract with Conjunct Communications LLC for bandwidth required to support CityLink operations and declaring an emergency, and hopefully one reading.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, we'll move that to council with a
Thank you.
recommendation to suspend and call. The second one, legislation request number 2 for the kind of the same thing with Everstream.
An ordinance authorizing, I make a motion to move legislation and ordinance authorizing the interim director of public service to enter into a contract with Everstream Solutions LLC for bandwidth required to support CityLink operations, declaring an emergency, the cost not to exceed $87,600.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That second request, we will move that to council. The next item is the National Cable Television Cooperative for WCTV.
I'll make that ordinance to authorize the interim director of public service to enter into a contract with National Cable Television Cooperative, Inc. for video services required to support CityLink operations and declare an emergency.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Legislation request number 3 for the NCTC has been moved to council.
Thank you.
Next item, sanitation.
Yep, so the legislative item here is for the purchase of a sanitation truck, more specifically a front loader packer truck. Packer is basically just another name for a trash truck. This one specifically would be for a 40-yard Heil half-pack, which is kind of the model name. Heil is the manufacturer, half-pack's kind of the model or style. And it would be built on a auto car chassis, so 2 different companies there that put together. This vehicle would be replacing a 2016 Mack front loader used in our commercial collection program. And the request, Matt, do you have is this one we'd like to do
Yeah,
Quickly,
this,
just to-
this can go 2 readings. We did enter into a letter of intent to purchase this particular item when it became available in '24. And now McQueen, the distributor, would like us to formalize that letter of intent in the form of authorization to purchase kind of thing. So.
What did we budget for this store?
I think the budget that we put in was $425,000 for that, so it's slightly
is under.
beneath that anticipated cost.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions
And
on?
as a correction, I think Mr. Testa indicated that it was a 40-yard packer. It's actually a 28-yard.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
One of our
Oh,
other
I see,
vehicles
20, yes.
was that size. This is not that size.
All right. Any questions? All right. Motion to move that forward?
I'll make a motion to move that forward to the council. Not
Second.
to exceed $404,000.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Pose same sign. All right, the legislation for the IL loader truck has been moved to council. Next item on the agenda is tipping fees.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is another operating item that I don't know had been brought to council, before council in the past, but it's a large dollar item. So bringing it forward, just to make sure council's aware of it and can take a look at it. Council President Williams had asked me for what the tipping rates were for the different service lines. I shared that via email with council today. The ask here would be, again, move to agenda and, approve at the earliest convenience for continuation of basically a necessary service.
And those numbers that you sent, I did see yard waste on there. I'm still going to ask that we look at our yard waste program to see how much money we're actually losing with maintenance on that new truck and the cost of the new truck.
We talked about that last
We
year.
talked about that last year.
So I will, at our next meeting next month, I will bring a financial analysis of that
Okay.
with some details.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion on tipping fees? All right.
No.
And just so the committee knows, I'm sorry to interrupt
No.
you in the middle of your motion process there. Mr. Test is bringing these to you on these agenda items at my request. The reason being, these are very large dollars when we talk about the video programming content, or very large dollars when we talk about tipping fees. And they're necessary and essential functions and operational-based costs. But this committee and members of council should know what those costs are, should be familiar with those costs on an annual basis, because those are the things that drive some of your decisions that have to be made on the revenue side of the house. And so, yes, operationally, these are something that we incur and move forward and perhaps haven't always been brought to you, but I don't subscribe to that belief. I think you should see these costs, you should understand those, and while if you were to choose to do something different, it would have serious impacts to our citizens and constituents. We're not asking you for those types of things, but these are things you need to know about, and you should. They're approved in your budget. You do see them in one form or another. It's the right thing to do, at least in my humble opinion, to bring them to you for authorization when we go to pay them on an annual basis. So
I
that
think
is
the
my
last time the
request.
tipping fees were ever discussed was 2015 or 2016.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on council since 16, and when this first came up, I don't remember seeing anything.
Because
coming.
it was $61 back
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
and we had a whole bunch of heartburn, and it was going to $61.
Yeah.
And everything. But I haven't seen anything since then.
So I don't want you
I
to be
appreciate it.
alarmed
Yeah.
or something. It's really our attempt at making sure you're informed and know and have a chance to see the things. And maybe it spurs discussion, maybe it does not, but I think it's worthwhile for you to have it. in
Well,
front of
again, even with this being on the meetings in the public record, it's very easy for anybody to go back, even for us to go back, and easier to find these things too. So, all right, no, appreciate that.
You were reading my mind. I appreciate this. I appreciate your efforts always to make sure we're informed and we have a big picture.
Transparency.
Very transparent. I appreciate that very much by you, not just you, but all the administrators.
Thank you.
All right, then entertain a motion for that legislation.
Yes, I'll make that motion to authorize the interim director of public safety to pay Medina County Solid Waste District for tipping fees and costs associated with disposal of solid waste and generation fees and declaring emergency. And we need to pay our bills, so hopefully suspend and call.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the legislation for the tipping fees has been moved forward with the suspend and call recommendation. Next item up is under the electric department and CityLink subscribers.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just point out that attached are documents with basically the activities that have gone on in the electric department crews over the course of the last month, and then a snapshot of our subscriber base related to CityLink services. Typically, we discussed this at, past meetings, but it's become more efficient to send them to you guys ahead of time and show you everything instead of me just cherry picking them. So those documents are attached. Any questions you might have about anything on there, please let me know and I'll
I
answer them.
appreciate that too, because
Yes.
that gives us a chance to take a look at it, and if we have questions,
Yeah,
here's
absolutely.
the place to bring forward.
Yes, thank you. So our next item, the next meeting date and time, so let me preface this with a little bit of context. Typically what we've experienced with the Public Service Committee meeting on the first Monday
Yep.
of the month is that in the first couple months, we typically have to reschedule those meetings because they fall on President's Day and Martin Luther King Day. Because we've rescheduled the first two meetings, there was some discussion at a previous committee meeting where instead of moving the meeting, say further back, from a Monday to like a Wednesday of that week, we moved it forward. This meeting would have normally taken place on the 20th, and the meeting that would normally take place on like February 21st is actually going to be on the 11th.
And we've already moved that one because
That's
of the-
correct.
right. Mhm.
So this was just really to bring up a discussion point of is the committee interested in changing the day and the week that we meet, and in particular the second Tuesday does not conflict with other standing commission or committee meetings.
Well, and it's, the council meeting last week and next week, it splits it
We're
up.
right in between the council
Right.
meetings, so if you have to get
Yep.
legislation moved forward.
It's not
gives you a lot
less
more time.
24 hours, right? And, on Monday, we have economic development and ways, and then this one tonight is safety, I don't know.
No, that was last
okay.
week. Last one.
So, I mean, I had glanced at my case. It's fine with me, all year, and I don't think there's any conflicts at all that come up. Okay.
I think
Makes
it's the
good
best,
sense.
best practices.
Yep, thank you. So I will inform Julie that,
the rest,
we've
yeah.
got, February's meeting scheduled, but going forward, no longer on the third Monday, but we've moved it to the second
Second Tuesday. All right, very good. Anything else from administration,
Nothing for me.
committee?
Nothing from me.
It was a nice meeting, thank you.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you, guys.
All right, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.